All right, today we're going to talk about something I think a lot of us have felt but maybe couldn't quite put a name to. It's called the footnote syndrome. It's a way to finally define that quiet, unsettling feeling that something isn't right.
You know how it starts? It's not some big, loud, dramatic event. It's a quiet moment. Maybe you're just reading a book, and then bam, a sentence hits you. It wasn't even written for you, but it feels like it was. It just perfectly describes something deep inside that you never had the words for.
In that experience, well, it leads to this question, right? Have you ever felt like people get you, but they don't really see you? Like they appreciate what you do, your skills, your mind, but the real you is kind of invisible. You're there, but you're not fully in the picture.
So, that feeling, it sets off this whole chain reaction in your head. A quiet shift. It's that first moment where you realize, something's not quite right here, even if you can't really explain what it is yet.
It all starts with this idea of a silent signal. Think of it like an invisible current running in the background of every conversation, every meeting. It's something that makes decisions about you before you even get a chance to open your mouth or show what you can do. And this signal, wow, it moves way faster than your hard work ever could.
And then these little epiphanies just start piling up, one after another. You start to notice how some people, they just walk into a room and get the benefit of the doubt instantly. They're seen before anyone even knows them. You realize that the most important decisions are being made in the quiet pauses, not in the actual conversation. And when people drift away from you, it's not a big fight. It's just a slow, quiet fade for no reason you can pinpoint.
Okay, so once those thoughts start to really sink in, the way you look at everything, and I mean everything, including yourself, it changes. It's like you're suddenly seeing the world through a colder lens. Your old confidence starts to crack, and what replaces it is this really painful kind of clarity. And this is where it really gets heartbreaking. You see, you probably started out with this belief, right? That if you're smart, if you work hard, if your mind is sharp, that'll protect you. But then the realization hits you, and it's a gut punch. You realize that all your talent doesn't change the room you're in. You're not just trying to win a race, you're trying to win a race on a course that was never, ever built for you to succeed on.
Man, that thought, it's just corrosive. It eats away at you. And it doesn't just mess with your present, it goes back in time and taints your whole past. Suddenly, you're looking back at every single achievement, every win, and you're thinking, wait a minute, how much harder did I have to fight just to get to the same starting line? It's this deep, nagging feeling that the race was always longer for you.
And then it happens. Something ends. A job, a project, maybe a relationship. And it doesn't feel like a one-off thing. It feels familiar, eerily familiar. Like you've seen this movie before, just with different actors. And that's the trigger. That's when you start blaming yourself.
And boom, that's what kicks off the downward spiral. Your brain just starts searching for an answer, and it turns inward. It becomes this painful loop of what-ifs. First, it's, maybe if I belonged more?
But then it gets sharper, you know? It shifts from belonging, which is about them accepting you, to fitting in, which is about you changing for them. So the question becomes, maybe if I fit better.
And then it gets even more specific, even more personal. It lands on the way you talk, the rhythm of your sentences, the jokes you make. You start thinking, maybe if I just sounded more familiar to them. Maybe I just don't sound like I'm one of them.
After you go through that whole spiral, this deep heaviness just settles over you. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's a quiet, crushing resignation. The work you used to love, it feels totally empty. People, they all seem so predictable, like they're just reading from a script. And hope, well, hope starts to feel like a luxury, like something for other people, for lives that aren't yours. And right there, in that quiet, low place, that's when it happens. All those scattered thoughts, all those confusing feelings, they finally click together. They form one single, sharp, powerful idea. You realize you were born as a footnote.
So what is the footnote syndrome? It's the feeling that you're just an addendum to the main story. You're the little asterisk, the extra bit of info at the bottom of the page. You're interesting, sure, but you're not essential. You're defined by your connection to the main story, but you are never, ever in the main story. Your life feels like an appendix to someone else's book.
You know, this idea puts a really interesting spin on the idea of struggle. The source material talks about a few ways people are born into difficulty. First, there are people born fighting tangible odds, poverty, things like that. Then, there are people born having to constantly explain who they are, their background, their identity. But being a footnote, that's a third different kind of thing. It's quieter.
You might even be successful by all outside measures, but you're never the star of the show. You're never the main character, even in your own life story.
Now, you'd think this big realization would lead to some kind of solution, right? A moment of healing? Nope, not at all. In fact, it leads somewhere much darker, a bleaker conclusion about how the world actually works.
And maybe this is the toughest part of all of this to swallow. There's no neat little bow to tie on this story. There's no moral, no simple lesson. All you're left with is this cold, hard acknowledgement of a very painful truth. And that truth really boils down to this. Sometimes the world doesn't have to be loud to be cruel. The deepest cruelty, it's not always the obvious stuff, the open hostility. No, sometimes it's cruel in its patterns. It's the silent, invisible systems that just sort us. Day in and day out, they decide who gets to be the main text and who gets pushed to the footnotes, and they never have to say a word about it. And the final, chilling thought is, and I'm stuck inside one of them. You're not trapped by a person, you're not trapped by a bad decision, you're trapped inside a pattern that's way, way bigger than you are. So let's leave it with this. We've talked about a really personal journey, but it makes you look outward, doesn't it? It makes you wonder, what other silent patterns are running our world? What are the invisible rules in our jobs, in our neighborhoods, in our lives that are quietly deciding who gets to be the main character and who's always going to be just a footnote?